All right, let's continue our talk about our wholesaling. A moment ago, we were talking about, again, how to work with the title company and things like that. Let's talk about what we need to talk about with the sellers. When you're talking to the sellers for the first time, in the initial visiting and all of that sort of thing, the home visit, as part of that process, you should ask for all possible paperwork. If they got the house via will, ask to see that. Respectfully ask to see that. Even if it hasn't been probated, ask to see it. Ask them if they have the survey, their deed. So when they bought the property, if they could produce that deed, that would be awesome. Do they have any mortgage statements? If there's a mortgage on the property and they're making payments on it, ask them if you can see a current statement. There's an enormous amount of information that's available on that statement. Think about it. The account number, what their balance is, whether or not they're current, what bank it's with. There's all kinds of good information, necessary information that's on that statement. So if they'll show it to you, ask for it. If you could take it with you, that would be great. You could include all of this information with your contract, and you can send it to the title company that way. They're going to need to know all of that information. So again, you might, again, ask for their deed. What can happen is the title company can see who closed that transaction, and it's possible for them to contact that title company and ask for their files regarding that transaction. So imagine, if you're a title company, how much easier and how much speedier it will be if you could contact somebody and say, hey, you closed this transaction, give me your files. Well, here you go. Now the new title company just has to do the research from that point forward. That makes it so much easier and quicker. If you need to move quick, that is a very good thing to be able to do. So again, all of these things are really, very, very handy to have when you submit your contract with the title company. Also know that for a fee, the title companies can come to you, or the seller or the buyer, by sending a mobile closer. For example, I closed a transaction once. The gentleman that owned the property, he had some kind of diabetes. He had lost part of his leg, his lower leg, to diabetes. Well, imagine how much trouble that would have been for him. He was an older gentleman too, but imagine the trouble it would have been for him to get down to the title company, to go to the bank with the check and all that sort of stuff. We wanted to make it easy for him, so we had a mobile closer come to his house, and he appreciated that so much. So just keep that in mind. The title company can have a mobile closer come to anybody. If somebody's very busy and they just don't want to go to the title company, that's fine. The title company can come to them. Here's a big one. Ask the title company for the wiring instructions. Make sure that your buyer wires their payment to the title company's escrow account. Again, that's information you get from the title company. And when your buyer, when it's time for your buyer to send the money, you don't want them to bring a paper check. Title companies don't trust those paper checks, unfortunately, anymore, believe it or not. They want you to wire that money to their escrow account. So be sure you respect the title company and you ask them for their wiring, what their escrow account is. They'll give that to you. Get that to your buyer and say, hey, I need you to wire money into this account. It belongs to the title company. Awesome. Negotiation tips and tricks. When you're talking to the seller, just be straight up with them. Hey, I'm an investor and I can afford to pay $30,000, and just be comfortable with that. And just make sure they understand you're an investor. You're not going to be an owner occupant of the property. Yes, you're doing this for a profit, goodness gracious, and there needs to be some room in this for you. You can use the we're not as far apart as you think routine. I'll have some more information regarding that. But when you and the seller are $10,000 or $15,000 apart, you can say, well, we're not really as far apart as you think. And then you can explain to them that they have mortgage payments to make, or there's penalties and interest on the delinquent taxes, or whatever the problem is, you can explain to them that if you don't buy it today, it's probably going to be 3 or 4 months before they can sell that property to somebody else. And because of that, they're going to incur these expenses. And, when you really get down to it, we're not as far apart as you think. And again, I'll have another example further on in the academy, but that's a wonderful technique. You can also say, look, if I agree to your price, let's say they're asking for what is nominally a little bit too much, you can say, hey, will you give me a time concession? You're willing to pay more for a property if you can make payments over time, i.e. if they will do owner financing. You don't ask for owner financing, but you say, look, if I agree to your price, you have to give me something back. You have to give me time concessions. That's a way of asking for owner financing, and that is valuable. You're willing to pay a higher nominal price if you can make payments over time. Also, dealing with lien holders. I'll get to that in the next step in part 7. We'll talk about dealing with lien holders. And again, this is the Wholesale Academy. This is Clay signing off.